Let's color. You're watching Morning at NTV.
Everyday Life
is brought to you by StarTimes. Enjoy digital life.
Good morning, my name is Idris Matu and welcome to Morning at NTV. This is Everyday Life. Now, if you have a paper and pen with you, you better pull it closer because today we are talking health. And we are going to be using a lot of good language that you might not understand, but, well, I have two guests in the house. Dr. Kajumbula Henry, you're all welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, viewers.
And Nanyonga Stella, a pharmacist. You're welcome.
Thank you.
So I will start with Doctor. Why are we here today? What has been happening in the world of health?
Okay, today we are here to discuss the topic of antimicrobial resistance. So, antimicrobials are very important medicines that we use to treat infections. And we are finding that they are increasingly resistant and it's becoming increasingly difficult to treat common infections. And people are losing lives. So I think that is why we are here.
Definitely. Now, before we get into the details, I don't know if you're following, but we shall go a little bit back so that we move at the same pace. Dr. Stella, I've had Antibiotics Awareness Week. Can you tell me more about that?
Thank you. The Antibiotics Awareness Week was from the 13th to the 19th of November in 2017, and it's a global celebration. This is a week we want to tell everybody about antibiotics, all healthcare workers, even the public. We need to let everyone know what antibiotics are, how to use them.
What are antibiotics? Because some of us really throw these words around, but we don't understand them. What are antibiotics?
I'm going to put it very simply for everyone to understand. Antibiotics are simply medicine designed and which we take to kill bacteria. That is the simplest way I can put it.
Antibiotics like?
We have amoxicillin, we have azithromycin, we have the injectable ones, ceftriaxone, the one they usually give on the hand. Yes.
So, amoxicillin, penicillin,
yes, they have different classes.
All these fight against bacteria that is in our bodies. Septrain. Yes. Oh, wow. I hope you are writing this down. You need to write this down. So, we've been celebrating Antibiotics Week. What has it been about? The use of antibiotics? The
theme for this year's celebration is that seek health from a qualified health worker before you take your antibiotics. In short, do not self-medicate when it comes to antibiotics.
Doctor, have you met so many people who self-medicate?
Well, I know that definitely there are many people who self-medicate. Well, many may actually go to a drug shop or a pharmacy, but usually asking for a particular medicine. Can I have some of this? Can I have some amoxil? I have some flu. I have a running nose. I have a bit of cough. So please give me a couple of amoxil tabs or give me Septrin. I have diarrhea. Can I have some Flagyl or something like that? So to a good extent, that is a degree of self-medication, although there is a healthcare worker playing a role in that case.
But you mentioned flu, cough. Are these diseases caused by bacteria?
Actually, these are not diseases caused by bacteria, and that is where the problem comes in. I mean, part of the problem comes in where we have inappropriate use. Many of these diseases are caused, these upper respiratory tract infections, the common cold, cough, are mostly caused by viruses, so they don't need antibiotics. Actually, for some cases, antibiotics may even prolong them. So it is that would be inappropriate use of the antibiotics. And as we shall see, that contributes to the problem of resistance, so that when you actually need an antibiotic, the organisms would have developed resistance to that antibiotic.
Stella, you as a pharmacist, you always giving out tablets. Someone might call you a drug dealer. But when do I need to use antibiotics?
You need antibiotics if you have an infection, and a bacterial infection, not a viral infection. That's why we always say seek help from a medical worker. Because when you go to seek help from a health facility, they'll run some laboratory tests. So here they'll be able to decide whether you have a bacterial infection or not. So you may have all the symptoms which show you're sick. You have the fever, you have the flu, you feel fatigue. But when you actually have a viral infection, not a bacterial infection. So you need antibiotics only when you have a bacterial infection.
A bacterial infection.
Which can only be confirmed by taking a laboratory test.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Well, doctor, so you mentioned about antibiotics. Now we understand what antibiotics are. But then there is something else you mentioned, antimicrobial resistance. What is this?
Okay. So antimicrobial resistance, yes. I will begin by describing what a microbe is. Because an antimicrobial is a medicine designed to kill a microbe. And the microbe are these germs that we've talked about, bacteria, viruses, fungi that cause disease. So antimicrobial resistance is when these organisms develop, they develop an ability, okay? They develop an ability to resist killing or inactivation by these by these medicines that were designed to kill them. I hope I make myself clear.
So the antibiotics, when you take antibiotics and the bacteria fails to die, that is microbial resistance.
Yes. If that antibiotic was designed to kill this particular bacteria, but when you take the antibiotic, it fails to kill that particular bacteria, then that bacteria is said to be resistant. Okay? So it has developed antimicrobial resistance.
Oh, well. I hope you are writing this down, and if you're not, you have a chance to call in later and ask the doctor or the pharmacist about antibiotics and antimicrobial resistance. But continuing, I'll go to Stella. How does antimicrobial resistance happen?
Well, there are some bacteria which are naturally resistant to some antibiotics. That's why we select the appropriate antibiotic. But it can also occur by two methods. One, the bacteria can get mutation and change its genetic coding. So where maybe the antibiotic was targeting a certain metabolic pathway, the bacteria will now use an alternate pathway, which is bypassed by the antibiotic. So it's more like it's evading the route you're taking to kill it. Then the second method is when you get bacteria which are resistant and they come in contact with those which are not resistant. So those which are not resistant will pick genetic coding from the resistant one, and they also become resistant. And then together they will all enjoy and thrive and grow.
These are the microbes that we
Yes.
talked about.
Yes.
And under the microbes, we have bacteria, viruses, fungi,
Yes.
and also parasites.
Protozoans. Yeah.
And?
Protozoans. Okay. Protozoans are a type of parasite. For example, the one that causes malaria is, we classify it as an organism we call a protozoan.
So how do I, doctor, get these microbes into my body system?
Okay. Well, one is that our body itself has more microbes. These are normal-friendly microbes. We have more microbes than we have our own body cells.
So,
I don't know if
I have bacteria in my body?
Yes, in
all along?
in your intestinal tract, your mouth is full of microbes. Any mucous membranes that the eyes have lots of microbes on all the surfaces you can think of on the body.
In my body, in my eyes, in my stomach, I have bacteria, viruses, fungi,
mostly
parasites,
bacteria and some fungi.
And some fungi.
Yeah. So those are normal friendly.
They are not dangerous.
Yes, actually they protect against these what? They protect us against dangerous ones because they occupy the spaces that these dangerous ones would come and occupy. So it's like, yes, you have a population, I mean, you have in a place where you have a lot of friends. But if those friends left, bad people could come in and cause problems to you.
Thieves, thieves of this country. So where do I get, where does the bad viruses,
so how do you get the bad microbes? So the bad microbes could come from a sick person, okay, or a person who is just carrying them. Some come from animals, okay. Animals, people are talking a lot about brucella. I have brucella. That comes from animals. Some come from the environment, okay. So these organisms come and get into our body. We might breathe them in, okay. We could eat them, you know of typhoid. You get organisms and you eat them and they establish themselves in you. And then some we could transmit them by contact, close contact with other people, okay. Some could be through injection. So there are different means by which these bad organisms could come from a source which is usually a person who may be carrying them or who is sick, an animal or the environment, and then they get into us through these different entry routes that I've talked about.
So after I get these bad microbes into my body, which again, to remind the viewers, microbes are the bacteria, viruses, fungi, parasites that come and attack our body to make us sick.
Maybe we should call them germs. That's
germs, germs could be an easier. But again, so after getting these microbes into my body, that's when I need to use the antibiotics.
Yes, so once they get into your body, especially antibiotics, if it's bacteria, they get into your body, the bad ones, and establish a disease, and it is diagnosed that yes, this person has this disease, or the doctor really has very strong reasons, or the health worker has strong reasons to think that, oh, this person has this infection due to this bacteria, I should give them an antibiotic.
Well, Stella, coming back to you, you told us about the antimicrobial resistance, whereby the medicine cannot fight the microbes, and the microbes have become very brilliant at fighting the medicine. How is it spread? How is that antimicrobial resistance spread into the body?
These resistant germs, now let me call them that, they are spread exactly the same way these other germs he has described about are spread. So, but the difference here is they are spread from a person who has the resistance, the germs which are resistant. So if I have a cough and it's an infection and I'm resistant, say I have TB and it's drug resistant and I cough, the droplet infection will still come the same way that TB would have been spread to you. But now of concern is the animals, because I think globally 80% of antibiotics are used in animals unregulated, meaning the veterinary officer has not told you to use them. You feel you've had people use antibiotics, so you also use them. So the animals can also get resistant organisms. But remember, we eat animals, we keep them as pets. So meaning you can actually get a cross-infection of a resistant germ from an animal to you, a person, through the same routes he has just described, which the normal germs.
Like what animal?
Where the antibiotics are used, yes, people give to the animals we eat for food, cows, chicken, I think to some extent pigs, but this is unregulated and even sometimes unreported. But through different platforms we get to know that people use antibiotics in animal, even as growth promoters. They know you give the chicken this antibiotic, it will grow fast.
So again, going back to people acting as doctors.
Yes,
they want to self-medicate, they want to medicate the cows.
Now they are veterinary officers.
Actually, in the medicating the cows, but as she has said, sometimes it is just, it's not for treating the animals that are sick, but it is also for, many people hearing that there is an outbreak of a particular disease of some many chicken in the neighborhood are dying, so they give their chicken antibiotics. But again, even more important is giving some of these feeds, possibly, I'm not sure, but I know in the Western world it occurs. Some of the feeds contain antibiotics, and the purpose is to promote growth. So maybe some of these feeds we need to explore it. Maybe some of the animal feeds do contain these antibiotics, and that is an area we need to explore. And if they contain antibiotics, we get, again, like I said, the normal organisms in these animals are killed off, but the ones that are resistant multiply, so that the animal has a lot of organisms or germs that are what? That are resistant. And then if you interact with these animals or their products, you pick up that resistant bug, and it may cause disease or illness in you.
In your body. Well, if you have just joined us, we are talking about antibiotics and antimicrobial resistance. These are simply germs. And again, if you are not understanding what we are talking about, you have a chance to call in and ask a few questions. In the studio, I have Dr. Kajumbula from Makerere University and Nanyonga Stella, who is a pharmacist with National Drug Authority. So we are in good hands. Now, going back to Doctor, what is the antimicrobial resistance global concern?
Okay, so antimicrobial resistance is a major problem. Some people have defined it as a tragedy of commons. That is that we generate it ourselves, okay? I may contribute a little to generating it, you contribute a little to generating it, but it will affect all of us. It will affect everyone. So currently, it is estimated that 700,000 people die because they have infections that cannot be treated by what? By an antibiotic. Okay?
Wow.
So they have a bacterial infection that is resistant to all the available antibiotics, so they can't be treated. So about 700,000 people die. But this is projected to get worse. So it's estimated that by 2050, 10 million people will be dying annually because of these resistant bugs. So it kills. The second problem is that it drastically increases healthcare costs. Okay? To treat a person who has TB, but not resistant TB, okay? TB that is caused by organisms that are not resistant costs about $250. To treat a person who has drug-resistant tuberculosis costs about $4,000. Okay.
Oh wow, the cost is high. Keeping healthy is quite expensive. But I think we have a caller. Hello.
Hello. Yes, hello. Good morning.
Good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Derek. I'm calling in from NTV.
Yes, Derek. What's your question?
I'd like to ask Dr. Kajumbula. He just talked about good bacteria. How can somebody know that they have good bacteria in their body?
All right. Thank you, Derek.
Yeah, thanks for the show.
You're welcome. How does someone know they have good bacteria?
Yeah, thank you very much, Derek. We all have good bacteria. So everyone has good bacteria. 100 times the number of your normal cells. So you have 100 times bacteria. You have more bacteria than yourself, than your own body cells.
Well,
so
I guess we have a call. Before you finish that question, hello.
Hello.
Yes. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm calling from NTV. This is Joyas.
Who?
Joyas from NTV.
Joyas from NTV. Yes. What's your question?
I'd like to ask Dr. Kajumbula, how do they treat a UTI, a resistant UTI?
A resistant UTI.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Joyce from Entebbe. I guess we can have another caller and pile up all these questions at once, and then you can answer them. Hello. All right. So, first question. How do
Okay.
you know you have good bacteria?
So we all have good bacteria, and these good bacteria are almost part and parcel of our bodies.
Yes.
They are part and parcel of our systems, and they contribute significantly to our health. Like I said, they occupy the spaces, they protect, they are part of our immune system, I should say. They protect us against infection.
They are part of you.
They are part and parcel
So,
of
my
us.
dear Derek, friend, you don't have anything to worry about. The bacteria you have is okay.
Yeah, but
everyone has bacteria.
maybe the concern would be, how can we interfere with this good bacteria? How can it become dangerous? One of the ways, I mean, how can some
good
of
bacteria go bad?
Yes. So if we take antibiotics, okay, excessively and when not needed, we can kill off most of the good bacteria, but some of the good bacteria, what were good bacteria, will survive and become and they multiply. So if we had initially 10 good bacteria of one type, 10 of another type, and 10 of another type, we might kill we might kill off most of these others, but then one particular type remains.
And then
so
expands.
it expands, and then it begins becoming dangerous.
In other words, again, you should not take
And-
medication before
yes.
you actually need to.
Yes.
I guess we have a caller. Hello. 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 What's your name and where are you calling from? Do we have a baby in the background?
Oh, that's nice.
Hello? I guess we lost the caller. So, one thing, hello?
Hello,
Yes, what's your name and where are you calling from?
this is Murungi Joseph.
Yes, Joseph. Where are you calling from?
Yeah, I'm calling from Bulisa.
Bulisa. Yes, Joseph, what's your question?
Now, for me, I wanted just to ask, like you are talking of somebody to get treatment, they should first go for a test.
Mm.
Now, getting a test
Mm.
in these villages of ours, it is not easy.
Yes, Joseph. Hello?
Yeah, I was like getting a test in these villages is not easy.
Mm. So, how have you
So-
been getting treated?
You know, and the easiest way is to go to a clinician or owning a drug shop,
Mm.
and you get treatment.
All right, Joseph. I guess
Yeah, but,
we... Mm.
but in most cases, these people don't have laboratories.
Mm.
So the way you see now, we have a very, very hard task to overcome what you are going about right now.
Thank you, Joseph.
Okay.
Yeah. The situation
Okay.
you've had is from Bolisa. There are no
Okay,
clinics,
so,
they can't
yeah.
test.
We also had this question from Joyous, who was asking
About
about
the UTI.
treating a resistant UTI. So, yes, how do we treat a resistant UTI? One is, first and foremost, you must ensure that you go to a health care worker and they make a diagnosis that your problem is a what? A urinary tract infection. Okay? And what type of urinary tract infection is it? Then they will probably request for a lab test, and the lab test will tell you whether you actually have, it confirms whether you have a UTI. And many times we are able to tell which particular organisms you have. And actually we also test in the lab which antibiotics, if you need one, this organism will respond to. So again, the message is get checked up by an appropriately trained professional healthcare worker, and the healthcare worker should also ensure that appropriate laboratory testing
it's
is
probably
done.
resistant because you're not taking the right medicine. and
It
you're
might
not
be
getting
resistant either because you are not taking the right medicine, okay, because you're actually targeting the wrong organism.
Yeah.
Two, it might be resistant because actually it's not an infection as such. Your symptoms are due to something else, so it's not an infection.
Oh, well.
Or it might be because resistant in quotes, or it might be because antibiotics or antibiotics were inappropriately used at some time. So you ended up having the organisms developing resistance, and they've now multiplied and caused an infection in you.
Oh, wow. Pharmacist, the last question you had about Bulisa. What do you have to say about that? Just in a few
Actually,
words.
that is the practice right now. Most people think because we don't have access to lab services, so I can justify taking antibiotics without a test. But actually, that is what is causing us this problem. Because you need to be tested before you can get... There are activities ongoing at a national level to scale up lab testing. I know for one, I think partners like IDI are putting up a fight to make sure our lab services are functional. So at some point, everyone will have access to lab services. But even now, it is not an excuse that we just take antibiotics because we cannot be tested. Even health workers know, and we are trying to empower them to know that it's safer to test this patient than to just give the patient
So people should be antibiotic aware,
yes,
in other words.
Yes.
Maybe I can add a bit on that. Yes, when we use antibiotics or most treatments, it is often desirable to have a laboratory test or a test to confirm the infection. But there are certain situations where we talk of empirical treatment. Empirical because a lot of information has been collected, and we know that many times, the majority of times, a person has this type, presents with this type of symptom or has this type of infection. Many times from the data we have available, usually it responds to this particular antibiotic, or it responds to, this is the way to treat it. So in certain cases, we are not able to do what? To test in the laboratory, but we have strong empirical evidence that we can treat it this way.
Oh, wow.
And so we develop guidelines at national level that under these circumstances, this is how you should handle this situation. So one, we need information, we need to collect adequate data, and that is where I come in our surveillance, where we keep on trying to find information, gathering information about the organisms that cause this type of infection, this type of infections, which antibiotic are they generally sensitive to, and what. So based on that, those we can develop guidelines, okay, that guide the clinicians on how to do what, to treat certain infections. Sometimes without the lab, but we definitely want them to have the lab.
To get tested.
So
And probably because we are running so much out of time and there are so many questions to ask. But if, going back to Stella, if I had a problem, a medicine-related problem, does National Drug Authority have somewhere I can go and report this?
Yes, National Drug Authority has many platforms where members of the public can actually report any drug-related problems or concerns. First of all, we have an adverse drug reaction form. It's available in health facilities, private, public, and facilities can actually pick that form from National Drug Authority. So this form, if the patient comes and tells you, I've experienced a side effect, I failed to sleep because I took a certain drug.
And that and that.
Yes, so you can fill in this form and get it to the nearest office of National Drug Authority.
Is there a phone I can call, a toll-free line?
You can.